Joe, why can't you trust atoms?
Why?
They make everything up. Or they make up everything?
There you go.
Is that better?
There you
Okay.
go.
All right,
Testing,
all
1, 2.
right. All right, let's try this. Joe, what did one plate say to the other plate?
What did one plate say to the other plate?
Dinner's on me.
Mm-hmm.
So, hello, everybody. Welcome to Carnivore Personnel Podcast Download. I'm Jacques.
And I'm going to kill Jacques if he keeps extending the name of this. Just say Carnival Personnel. Come on. Just play the game.
You know, I will do that. I will make an effort, Joe. If you make an effort to remind me of our anniversary more than 5 minutes before we go on the air.
I thought it was built into your calendar. I'm sorry.
No, because I always equate Memorial Day with the FNH tournament that we play in Scottsdale, Arizona, which this is the first time in 8 years John's not making the trip. I think probably over a period of time between Biff and I and different teams we were on, we've probably been, or Biff's probably been 17, 18 times in the last 20 years. And John's probably been 12 times in 15 years. But anyways, so that's why I always associate Memorial Day with that. I should now associate Memorial Day with our anniversary of kicking off the podcast, which has collectively to date solved all the world's problems.
But caused twice as many more. So, 2 steps forward, once. No, wait. The other. No, it's got to be your bull.
You know, like, wait, I can stick my head up the butcher's ass. No, like I said, you know, that equates to somebody we've mentioned once or twice on this podcast who wants credit for putting out the fire that they just started. Like, you know, Joe's yelling at me because I lit his couch on fire, and I'm pissed at Joe for not thanking me for putting the fire out. So,
yeah, that's how the world works, and that's how we work here on Carnival Personnel. Jacques, what's new with you?
What's new with me is the passing, as we've talked last week, because just before we went on last week, we found out that Fred Willard has passed. And Joe and I decided last week we definitely need to do a Fred Willard sideshow. And I know a lot of his catalog. Joe knows an extensive amount of his catalog. But we decided, you know what? We should really put some ducks in a row. This man deserves a well-researched, well-thought-out sideshow, which will drop this Thursday. And Joe, I believe I will speak for both of us. We have collectively enjoyed the rabbit hole that we've fallen down into that is Fred Willard.
I'm not sure I'm out of it yet. I don't think I want to go back. I don't want to go back to a non-Fred Willard world. Do you know what I mean? 2020 is bad enough. Fred Willard being gone, I don't want to live anymore. I think Fred Willard's in a better place, and I think I want to be there.
I seriously have enjoyed. I'm finding these gems that I might have remembered from my childhood or from my past, and I look him up, and I see another clip that takes me to that clip, and I'm like, oh my God, I gotta send this to Joe. And Joe's like, oh man, that's great. But now you have to check out these 3 clips. And at one point, Joe's like, oh, no, I'm sorry to send you so much stuff because the history of being white in America is like a 45-minute program. And I'm like, why are you apologizing for handing me a winning lottery ticket?
The only thing I didn't tell you is that there's a volume 2. That's an hour and 45 minutes.
And the way things are going on the home front, most likely I'm going to be spending a good deal of this weekend in my cave, and I'm happy for it. I don't have the big screen TV or my PS4 and my little hovel, but you know what? I think me and Fred Willard will get along just fine.
I was telling you right before we logged on here that I was enjoying a binge watch of, I think, every Fred Willard sketch appearance on Jimmy Kimmel, because his YouTube channel has a playlist dedicated to Fred Willard. And even if the clips are long, you just have to fast forward to about 3.5 minutes before the end of the clip, because that's all they really need for Fred Willard to be awesome. I mean, those are really short stints that he's done, but they were fantastic. And you don't need a lot of Fred Willard. He packs in the punch. And kudos to the writers, too. But let's not get into the Fred Willard rabbit hole here.
No, because we have what may be part one of a two-part sideshow of Fred Willard coming up. So Thursday, I've loved these sideshows we've been doing lately. I really have, because it's given me an excuse to go back and re-listen to, the Button-Down Mind. I'm sorry. The greatest new comic since Attila the Hun, the Button-Down Mind of Bob Newhart. No, it's been fun, but this Fred Willard hole that we've both been falling into, I'm excited to record that podcast. So let's get this crap out of the way. Something I forgot to put on the rundown that you just reminded me that it's 2020. We talked about a little bit this week, Joe and I did. There's a new thing going around the interweb. These 2-panel memes called My Plans and then 2020.
Yep.
And, one of the ones that was great is the now infamous clip of the picture of Marshawn Lynch. Who was the cornerback for Seattle? Oh, real obnoxious guy.
Yeah, I forget.
But he's mugging for the camera, moments before the end of the Super Bowl, and it's like My Plans, and then the second panel is just the screen grab of the moment that Malcolm Butler comes down with the ball. The one that I honestly just I had to sit down because it literally took the wind out of my sails. It's a picture of Jason Todd early on, the 13, maybe 14-year-old Jason Todd, all in his happy phase of just becoming Robin. And then the 2020 picture was just a picture of a crowbar.
I saw the same thing with Nancy Kerrigan.
Oh, did you really? Was it a crowbar they got her with, or was it just a billy club?
Oh, it could have been a billy club. You know what? I stand corrected.
At
least I'm standing.
You are not a good person. I've seen a bunch of other ones, and they're pretty fun.
I know the internet is keeping us well entertained in this crisis that we're going in or coming out of. I am not surprised to see, as I'm going out and doing more things, other people are also going out and doing more things. Especially now that we have the warmer weather up here in Boston. It seems like COVID. What? Huh?
Yeah, our state is slowly reopening, and I mean, look, I'm not a huge, I don't dislike our governor, even though he's Republican. I mean, I truly think he might be the last holdout of a fiscally conservative guy who is not completely empathetic, or maybe he's that good of a politician where he realizes, the biggest city is Boston has a Democrat mayor and always will, and our 2 state senators are both Democrats, so I should not, I should do things that work for both sides. Anyways, the point is, we're opening up slowly. I live right on the New Hampshire border, and it's unbelievable. There's a little bridge that goes from Kingsborough, Mass. Into Nashua that we have to cross over to get to the absolutely empty field and track and basketball court we go to every day. And every single day, it's almost been a doubling effect of how long it takes to get over that tiny bridge. I mean, 2 weeks ago, you might have had 2 cars per light cycle, like backed up when you get to a red light. And now you may be the 50th car, waiting to get through that one light to go over the little bridge.
Yeah, you got cabin fever plus
New
warm
Hampshire's
weather
open.
Plus New Hampshire's open equals party time in the USA.
Karen can go to New Hampshire and get a haircut.
Yep. Well, in Massachusetts, Karen will also be able to get her haircut in about a week. So, yeah.
I will say, my parents who, as we talked about, are brainwashed, late 70s, early 80s people, at least they've taken it serious, and they're still taking it serious, where my mom told me the other day her hairdresser called her and said, hey, I can take appointments now. My mom's like, I'm going to wait a little bit. You know what I mean? I know I can go in next week, but, if it's another week or 2 weeks, she'll be okay waiting to get her hair cut. So, that's something else I was going to put on, we'll get into that later. The give me liberty, or, give me a mask, or no, the opposite of that. Give me liberty, or.
Well, give me a haircut or give me death?
Well, the mask thing, the people having meltdowns, because lots of stores are like, okay, we're open, but you have to wear a mask in the store. And there's some people who just are literally losing some shit. But first, I want to talk about some other stuff first. The good stuff. I'm very excited. I don't know how many people will log on. It's a possible 10 people. But I have a Zoom call tonight with my old neighborhood folks, the Carter Lane group. I grew up in Wilmington, not to brag, a little street called Carter Lane, and there was 4 houses. And between the 4 houses, there was 10 kids. And 8 of the 10 kids, were all married, have kids. Like the last of the unmarried ones, got married a few years ago, and like 9 of the 10 kids and all 4 of the living mom, all 4 of the moms were there. There's only one dad of the 4 that's still with us. And I just remember like pointing out, we were all gathered together, and I pointed out, I'm like, John's sitting over there thinking, those lucky bastards. But we're going to have a Zoom call. Friend of the podcast, Mike is going to be, one of them. So that's my big evening. What is your big evening after we record these 2 podcasts?
Probably more Fred Willard clips, but let's not think about the future. Let's think about the past. The distant past, the 1980s Boston past.
So you will have to tell me where you found it, but thank God you did. I instantly forwarded to our friend Blind Squirrel Paul from F&H, who's a few years older than me. So I started hanging out in Kenmore Square and in like 91, when Dan and I and our band started playing. We played the Rat, which you saw, in that little clip. That was one of my favorite places to play. Don't look for it. It's not there anymore. The line from Spinal Tap that applies to my life now. But yeah, how did you find it? And please elaborate.
So I listened to a podcast called TV Guidance Counselor. It's really just one guy who's a comedian out of Boston. His name is Ken Reed, and he is about my age. And he grew up just loving television. He grew up, in the Boston area, and he shared that video of We Don't Knock, which is a WSBK TV 38 production from 1985 to 1987. It starred Dana Hersey. It was essentially like the precursor to Dave Attell's Insomniac series, if you remember that from the Comedy Central days. And I don't know how they must have gotten some clearance from these establishments, but the point of the show, it was kind of a hybrid. It was part sketch show and part guerrilla warfare reality type show, where they take a camera crew into crawls and different hotspots of the Boston scene in the 80s with Dana Hersey on the mic, and just, usually at night, and they just go in and interview people like right off the bat, like right off the old bean. He's coming up with questions, and this is the same guy who hosted the Movie Loft and tonight on TV 38.
Well, that's who I know. So Dana Hersey, from my recollection, I always he was a staple in Boston, but a very dignified, Cosby from the Cosby Show sweater collection, showing Casablanca and telling little, Hollywood snippet stories coming in and out of the commercials, but a very buttoned down, very straightforward, almost, I don't want to say conservative, but, definitely.
He's a conservative.
No. But I mean, like his approach, he'd be like, Hootie and the Blowfish of hosts, you know what I mean? Just right down the middle. But in this clip, he is definitely, out, he's the man about town and hitting on women and just, hey, how you doing? A little more.
He's a lot looser. It's kind of like seeing Alex Trebek host Classic Concentration in the 80s and hitting on the female contestants and wearing Hawaiian shirts. It's like seeing your teacher out of school. Like, hey, you're Mr. Hersey, why are you groping that poor woman? And why are you eating ribs off of that woman's plate?
Which had to be staged. That had to be staged. But it was but he goes into the whole thing. It's like, no, you can't go down there. Was it Rick James who was allegedly down there?
Yeah, the bouncer stops him at the door. No, I'm sorry, you can't get in there. I'm sorry. Who's down there? Rick James? No. I just want to say hello, real quick. Dana Hersey. The other thing I want to say about this guy who I follow on this podcast, Ken Reed, he has a story about how, I guess, Dana Hersey would legendarily get drunk and just out of the blue at any sort of bar in Boston, he would just walk in half-cocked and say, "I'm Dana Hersey. Who wants to fight?" and pick fights. And he seems, I guess maybe that's the real Dana Hersey. Maybe the guy who sits there. Maybe the guy who sits there saying it. And now tonight on the Movie Loft, Casablanca. No, you're not the real Dana Hersey.
And I loved it. And there's no Wikipedia page for it. It's just there's a mention of it. How in the 80s, But at the same time, I mean, this is when UHF channels were which this is pre specialty channels on cable. Like cable was MTV, HBO, and C-SPAN. Like that's what cable is. You had your basic networks, and then you had a few extra movie channels. That was a big thing about cable back then. So the UHF channels, as you know from the Weird Al movie. What was the name of that Weird Al movie about the UHF channel?
I don't know. It had 3 letters or something in there. But go on.
So you had V66, and I don't know if you even remember V66.
I do. It lasted 2 years, 3 years, like 86 to 88 or something.
Right. It was an MTV, and there was other MTV stations, like local MTV stations with the local BCN jocks where, also the V66 jocks, and TV38 was trying to do their own shows. And the sketches actually weren't bad.
There was a dick joke in the first sketch, like right off the bat.
Right, the old bean. Yeah, the whole woman asking questions of Reagan at the State House.
Yeah, doing the old interspersal of actual footage of Reagan giving a speech and then interjecting her ribald questions, which were pretty funny, actually. Like the skits kind of landed. They were okay.
The skits were good.
Yeah, I mean better than Formal Edition.
No, but maybe the Formal Edition before I came on board, but after that it was pure gold. So yeah, I mean, and I did like I said, Ruger's a couple years older than me, and I'm like, oh my God, because so if I graduated high school in 87, in 85, he was probably halfway through his career at Northeastern University. So, I mean, and so he was. I mean, yeah, so I got to follow up with that. Other big news in entertainment, there has for the past few years been rumored that there's a Snyder Cut of Justice League, and I won't get too much into Justice League. I know Joe doesn't like the DC movies that much. Zack Snyder is one of the best directors, period, the end. I mean, he is phenomenal. And as we talked before, this Justice League movie was supposed to be part of a trilogy. There was supposed to be the Justice League movie. There was supposed to be a standalone Batman movie and possibly a second Man of Steel. And Man of Steel is considered a great movie, not a great DC movie. About 75% through the filming of his original movie, Zack Snyder's daughter passed away. And that's why he left the project. Like people who don't know, like, he got fired off that, and they brought in, the other huge guys. There's like 3 or 4 huge guys, and I'm blanking on his name. I see him. He's done a bunch of Marvel movies. He's done, it's not Abrams, it's not Gunn, it's not Snyder, it's the other one who created Firefly.
Oh, Joss Whedon.
Josh Whedon, thank you. So Josh Whedon came in, reshot a lot of it, and did it. At the same time, because they were on pause for a couple months, Henry Cavill, his time ran over, and he had to go on to do the Mission Impossible movie. But he would go back and forth on off Mission Impossible days, but he had in his Mission Impossible contract that he couldn't shave his mustache. So they had to try to make up. So there's some shots of Superman that they have to make up over a thick 70s porn star mustache.
He pulled a Cesar Romero.
He had to. He actually had to.
They couldn't CGI that shit out?
Well, yes, but it doesn't come out. It doesn't. Well, the thing is, I'm going to say 95% of people would not have noticed, but the 5% of people made sure the 95% of people who didn't know. And now you look for it. It's like, oh, right. And then you're not watching the movie. You're watching to see if you can see this mustache thing. Anyways, so there was a rumor that Zack Snyder had a 5-hour cut of the movie, like just not a cut of the movie, but just an assembly thing that you're going to whittle down from, that he turned in. He would never publicly say it. The studio would never say it, but the fans have not relented. And he has never seen the final cut of the theatrical Justice League. You know, and whether it's too painful because of the loss of his daughter, and his wife is his production partner, like she's the producer and he's the director, and they're great. And maybe it was just too painful, but finally it was announced just yesterday, I believe, that yes, that cut exists, and not only is it going to be released, they're now debating whether to release like a 3.5-hour movie on HBO. Or is there enough for a 6-episode miniseries? Can you cut it down? And what's interesting is, like Zack Snyder's wife has said, it's like, well, this is the perfect time. You know, it's a lot of the CGI isn't there, and all these houses aren't working because there's no production. So they made a deal to get, like, I think HBO is putting $30 million into finishing it, and it times out perfectly because these post houses don't have much going on right now, and they're not going to, because, you know, I'm telling you now, it's like there was 2 small movies I was supposed to be doing now in North Carolina, like tiny, Lifetime movies. And that's all. We don't know when it's going to start. And now between the director that I'm working with and the financing people, they're going state by state. It's like, okay, well, Georgia just released their guidelines and Oklahoma released their guidelines. And it's like trying to figure out like how they can shoot these things and which places are going to be more, the cost prohibitive. If you're talking, $400,000 movie, and now you have to have X amount of doctors on set, you have to have this, you have to have all these, right? Like you're talking.
We're in the weeds.
Okay, yeah, sorry. So either way, snack
cider.
I'm gonna kill you.
You know what I like? Schneider's pretzels. There is a Snyder's pretzels, right?
But the Justice League, and again, it's like I've heard Snyder in interviews before say, yeah, people are upset that, well, what about this and what about that? It's like, that was the setup for the next movie. It's like, yes, we didn't forget about that. Like in the Batman vs. Superman, you see Lex Luthor, the cut scene after, you see Lex Luthor, who somehow got out of jail and he's on a yacht somewhere, and Deathstroke and him have a little conversation, a 30-second conversation about teaming up. That was supposed to be the setup for the next Batman standalone Ben Affleck movie where he was going to fight Deathstroke. So I'm really, really excited that next year we're going to have the new Batman movie with
the Batman with Robert Pattinson.
Which worst vampire ever. Took him 17 years to turn into a bat from anyway, shut up, Jacques. And you're going to have Ben Affleck back on the little screen, but in a big screen role, with the release of either a 6-episode miniseries or a possible 3.5 to 4 hour movie of Snyder's Justice League.
I think the fans would probably want to see the Snyder Cut. Basically what they've been demanding. Although the miniseries sounds great, I think they'd like to see a cohesive, what Zack Snyder was planning on putting out all along kind of movie. And this is actually going to be released on HBO Max, the new streaming service that's going to be, I think, starting the end of this month or early next month. So this is sort of like, I guess because it's coming out a year from now, it's not exactly like the killer app, if you will, of getting people to log on to the service right away, but it's definitely a big get and a big hook to get people to go, oh, fine, another fucking $20 a month or whatever it's going to be. I'll do it. I just want to see the Snyder Cut. Let's get this done.
I'll do it for a month. I definitely will do it for a month when that comes out. And it is a lot of the reason that movie gets panned is people thought that Snyder got fired off it. Because the rumor mill, it's like, oh well, he got pushed out and Josh Wheaton had to come in and save it. It's like, his infant daughter passed away and him and his wife decided, you know what, we need to step back from making this little movie and
maybe focus on the family. Right. Yeah. Like maybe, get our heads straight. People can be cruel sometimes. I don't know if you know this, but there are bullies out there on the internet.
Speaking of fine people, are you up to speed on the Lori Laughlin retro situation?
Yeah. So as I understand it, they finally, after 18 months or however long it's been, like a year of getting lawyers involved and appealing or whatever, and this and that, the other thing, finally, the Laughlins have decided, or Lori Laughlin and her husband, Mosimo, have decided to plead guilty. Yep, we did it.
Yeah, the other day they got denied an appeal to drop the charges based on whatever, and the judge said no, and that's when they realized, because they're the face of it, you know what I mean? And they held out. Everybody else has either pled out at this point. Most of the people have pled out and served their month, or a few weeks, and it's one of those things. It's like, like Taylor always says, admit guilt, apologize, keep the money. And the people who right away said, oh my God, yep, we fucked up, we're sorry. Okay, here's your really big fine and probation. And the people who said, I'm going to fight this, and then a little time in said, yeah, I don't want to fight this, I'm going to plead, got a week, got a month sentence, and got out in a week type thing. I don't think anybody did more than a month. But where they, like you said, they've been fighting this for about 2 years now.
Do you think that team works on contingency? Do you think that legal team is going to say, you know what, we tried, but we didn't pull through for you, so it's on us, pro bono?
Yep, I'm quite sure that's how that worked out. And so, but at the same time, the whole thing is, okay, well, they're releasing people from jail, like Paul Manafort. I love that. It's like, it's time to open the economy. It's like COVID is serious, all these things. We got to get him out of jail. But it's a hoax and it's not really happening. Let's open the states. So, okay, so it's not a bad thing.
What might be right for you may not be right for some.
So did they also, it's like, are they pleading now because a judge is going to send him to 6 months in jail and not actually send him because they're sending it? Or does the judge say, you know what, I'm giving you 4 months, and you're going to start in a year from now. So you got a year, and then we're going to – that happens all the time. Like people, are given time to get affairs.
People are given time and then are freed from jail, like Mike Flynn, like, all these other people. But I guess those are higher up people.
Roger Stone,
right. But you got to know people. And the Laughlins aren't that connected. But we'll see. So it looks like Lori Laughlin's getting, 2 months, and then 50 hours or 100 hours of community service, and the husband is getting 6 months or something like that, or 4 months, basically double or a little over double what Lori Laughlin is supposed to be serving. And well worth it. Wasn't it all worth it?
And the best part is their daughters didn't want to go to school.
It's like, what the fuck? Oh, well. Hey, you know what? Just add that to the chapter of History of White People in America.
I don't want to be on.
Boy,
So, Joe, if you were worried during COVID and the people who are now unemployed and the people who are losing their business, I want you to stop worrying about the super wealthy and the big companies, because it turns out Amazon is up about 300% the same quarter as they were last year, and that Walmart is up, and that the super rich are getting richer. So, Joe, I know you've been worried about them. You can breathe easy. Jeff Bezos is still the richest man in the world.
Well, luckily, I can breathe easy. Some people out there, not so much.
That's because they're forced to wear a mask, because the man is stomping on their freedoms, Joe.
Yep. Quite the system we have here, and it's completely sustainable, and I'm glad to be a part of it. I'm glad to be the smallest, most inefficient Chinese-made cog in the grand machine that is American capitalism. Holy fuck. Oh, well. You know what? Hey, I still have a job. And I don't know. I can't complain, but I do sometimes.
But the people who are complaining about truly wearing a mask to go into a store, and you keep seeing it's like every time I go to Twitter, here's a new clip of somebody who looks like me or looks like your wife. You know what I mean? Just average middle-aged white Americans losing their absolute shit, just like absolute colossal because of the indignity. It's like, okay, so you want to march around because it's your Second Amendment right to walk around in a subway with your RPG rocket launchers and your, AK-47s. That's cool. But because you're being told, hey, we're kind of worried about a second wave of this disease that's killed close to 100,000 people, could you wear a mask for the 10 minutes you're in Best Buy? Somehow, that tyranny needs to come to an end.
You know what's funny about people who preach, I don't want to be told what to do by my government because it's my constitutional right. Just think about the logic of that. Why is the Constitution there? And why are those rights your rights? If they're in the Constitution, who put them there in the Constitution? The government. So the government is telling you you can carry guns. So that same government is telling you, hey, you got to wear a mask for about, I don't know, a while. So how come when the government tells you, yeah, you also have the freedom to carry guns and to assemble peacefully or not peacefully, you can now assemble with guns, apparently, in some states. The logic is there. There I go again with the word logic. There is no logic. It's all gut feeling. It's all what I want right very now.
Well, the other thing is we were talking about executive orders just a little bit ago. Signing an executive order or threatening to sign an executive order. He's demanding. He did. He signed an executive order saying that churches are essential businesses, which again, if they're businesses, then we got to have them pay taxes.
They're essential services, not a business.
Oh, so they're essential services. And if the states don't open up, I'm going to override the governors, which remember about 4 or 5 weeks ago, he said that thing he was going to override the governors, and then people like Andy Cuomo said, no, you're not. And then the next day he was like, I decided to let the governors handle this by themselves. And then Andy Cuomo said, oh, thank you for the 10th Amendment of the Constitution letting me do that. And he's doing it again. And it's one of those things. I'm all for the mega churches all getting together. If they were in gated communities where they didn't go to the rest of the public, if you want to, pass covert back and forth between you guys, have at it. But that's not how it works. That's not how that really works. So, so that's another thing that it's like, the government's great when it lets me go to church and lets me carry a gun, but fuck them for telling me to wear a mask.
Yep. I wish my liberal bubble was COVID proof. That's all I want. That's all I want. Just a little peace and quiet.
Let's see, what else did I have?
Why do you lean off? You're checking.
Oh, because I don't. Yeah, because I don't. I told you I'm out of ink.
Oh, yeah, right,
so,
right.
And not only am I out of ink, I lost my glasses, so I have to.
But Jacques, there was time now.
But I'm so hoping because he's threatening to do rallies. Please have rallies. Please have lots of rallies. Demand that people don't wear masks at your rallies. Don't be sissies and come on in there mask free. And I hope there's a lot of hugging going on. You know what I mean? A lot of open mouth kissing going on at those.
Well, we know that Trump will be kissing and hugging that goddamn flag.
That poor flag. I mean, if there was somebody in the Me Too movement.
The blue dress has nothing on that flag, I'll tell you.
Oh, that is just awful. But yeah, the only other story like this weekend awful I wanted to I was just reading about is the former deputy secretary for the White House. Now a private citizen, overnight, it only took him 10 days to start a new company and get a $3 million contract to supply PPEs to Native Americans. It turned out 30% of them, these ventilator masks, they didn't work.
Are they a little too ventilated?
It's like,
did they have a sunroof? Did they have like a straw hole?
But don't worry, each mask came with its own smallpox blanket to give them. I mean, it's like, how many times are we going to screw over, the same group of people? But, everything's awful.
Nothing's new. It's been 2 years. We've been doing this goddamn podcast for 2 years, trying to put right what once went wrong. This quantum leap accelerator is not working out the way I hoped it would be working out. What are we doing wrong? Are we not talking about it loud enough? Are we not?
I think that's what it is.
Maybe maybe it's because I'm not tweeting enough.
That's what it is. Because when you do tweet, it makes my world better.
Moves the needle.
Makes my world better.
It moves the needle in your pants. I'll tell you that. Hey, what am I saying here? But seriously, folks.
So, we'll skip a self-indulgent thing because I didn't give you a heads up on anything unless you prep something I don't know about.
Nah.
Then let's get right into sport. And the only thing that of note is the NHL is threatening to come back with a 2014 playoff.
Yeah, I guess they're going to look into building some sort of ice villages or something, like these little rink villages. Is that the deal? Like in Florida, is that the plan? Florida seems to be the epicenter of the solution to all of COVID's problems. Like if you got a problem with COVID-19 tearing down your business or stopping you from making money, come on down to Florida. We got all the answers.
It's interesting. I mean, and I'm telling you, I'm not overly enthused. It's like I've resided in the fact that Marchand was, on pace to be the league's MVP, that the Bruins were on pace to right the wrong of last, June 12th. And, I was excited about it, but now I'm like, okay, they haven't played in 3 months. So there's no momentum going into this thing. I don't know anything about it. And really, I'm like, guys, it's already, the cup is already, it's already done. So what are they going to do? Have a 2014 playoff that goes through August and then start the season in October? And then honestly be literally burnt out hockey is the most demanding sport. I mean, basketball has 82 games, hockey has 82 games, same amount of playoffs, but it's just a more demanding physical sport. And it's a war of attrition, and to go from whatever farce or playoff this 2014 playoff is into the next season, it's guys, we don't need it. Like, just everybody take a break. And it kills me because, like I said, like the Bruins have, you're lucky if you make the playoffs, you make the Stanley Cup once every 20 years and you win it once every 40 years, and the Bruins could have done that. They should have done that. They should have won last year. They didn't. They were having a great season this year. It sucks, but move on. Don't even try.
Yeah. See, I also heard that the NBA was looking to do the same thing. So actually, when you mentioned the NHL, I was like, oh, I didn't know hockey was actually thinking of doing what the NBA is planning on doing, was, like I said, building villages in Florida and just continue, because they were pretty much wrapped up.
The NBA, who got bashed by people like me, because when this started to really take momentum, COVID, back in January and February, and tests were very, very scarce, lo and behold, the NBA somehow found ways to test their players. And it was, the rich getting richer. Sure, they're going to get their test. However, when you look back and you think, because they were so aggressive in getting their people tested and they found out how rampant it was, and they were the first to say, we got to step down, other places, it's like they should be applauded for being so proactive, however they got the test, whoever they had to jump the line, because if it turned out you got it or I got it and we got tested, no big deal. But, shit, these primetime athletes who got it, who weren't taking it serious, it's like, who are playing in front of stadiums of people every single night, it turns out that it was probably a good thing that they were early on getting tested and pulling the brake on their season.
Yeah, we were all just jelly. That's all it was, really. You
got anything going on in video game land, Joe?
Not a whole lot. No, I've been playing New York Times crossword puzzle on my Nintendo DS, and I think I've decided to skip my 40s and 50s and just go directly to my 60s. I think I'm there. I'm there. I skipped my 20s to get to my 30s, and now I'm skipping my 40s to get to my 60s because I can't wait to die.
Joe, I've said this before. I'm going to say it again. I'm going to say it now. You were born older.
How's that?
And I guess that was our very brief self-indulgent theater. But
you want a shock? I think you're a swell guy. You get all that, Annie? It's about time one of you lunkheads said something.
And thank you, Joe. Thank you for all that. Did you finish today's Sudoku? Is that on the list?
Sudoku's for aunts. Thank you very much. I do New York Times friggin' crosswords. Okay, while I'm watching Buzzer, oh no. Oh no. Yeah, if it weren't for my wife and children, I'd be in a nursing home right now.
and not as an orderly.
No. I would be drinking the COVID Kool-Aid.
We hear video game wise, if you follow me on the Twitter machine, you can see I'm still fighting my one-man war against the PSN connectivity situation.
Man versus Sony.
Dude, it sucks so bad. I get these small windows to play, and I just want to jump on and play these mini games, and it's over 50% of the time. And my little guy's like, "Oh, Papa, if you go up and you do the test connection thing, it seems to right in the wrong for about 10 or 15 minutes." But even him playing the Fortnite and stuff, it's like it's truly Apex. Apex is his big thing now. They're like, yeah, he keeps getting logged out and he's on the headphones with his friends, and he's like, "Sorry guys, I got to log back in." And I hear that at least 3 or 4 times an hour, when he gets to play.
Is it just him when he's playing that's getting logged out, or his friends also?
Because the thing is, his friends, some are on Xbox and some are on, and even here, it's like, the little guy will be on his Nintendo Switch and they'll be on the same game together. There's no problem with the Nintendo Switch.
Did you try putting foil around the PS4 to maybe increase its connectivity? Yeah.
I mean, I'll play at 1 in the morning, if I'm up late writing. And which, by the way,
but wait, if you're writing, how are you playing?
But honestly, it's like, I'm exhausted. I can't write anything else. I'm just going to veg out and play this for 10 minutes. And I can look on my app and I can disconnect everything in the house. I can shut down every Alexa and every, Apple TV, anything that's on that's drawing off the interweb. I can shut off, the wife's phone, all these things, and have only it's still, I'll play one mini game. I'll be halfway through a second mini game. And the thing is, I don't know who I'm playing with on the other line. And, I do that thing where if somebody logs on and they haven't got the SS on this, thing, and I feel like I'm doing the Lord's work, and I feel like I have to log back on and send this person a message. Look, I didn't disconnect with 10 seconds left to go in the game and not get you that. It's killing me, Joe. So, I mean, and then I take these little videos and I post it, and I keep letting PlayStation Network know their connectivity is the best marketing tool that Nintendo and Xbox have seen.
You know what? I don't think Sony checks Twitter. I think that's the problem.
Is that what it is? Well, I just mentioned it. I want to give you a shout out here, Joe, or a thank you. I'm trying to write a script, which I've been forcing Joe to reluctantly have some small part in it. I like him to have a huge part in it because he's funnier than I am. But I sent him the first 10 pages the other day, and turns out I sent him the first 13 pages because by the time you reformat it properly and made all the corrections, kudos. Thank you.
Yeah, maybe next time don't speak your script into your phone. Maybe that's the problem.
Is that what
I think autocorrect is really screwing you up. Or turn it on. Something's not happening on your end. But yeah, and I haven't. You sent me a scene, the art scene thing. And I haven't looked at that yet. But I got time.
Hey,
Where am I
gold.
going? Where am I going? Where are we all
gold.
going? Yeah. Okay.
Heads up, don't be drinking a beverage while you go to read it because you get a spit take all over it. I don't want you. It's that good. It might be the funniest thing you've ever read. Shut up, Jacques. It's not good.
Well, when you're not cursing out Sony, I'm sure in your downtime you must be watching the telly. You must be.
Joe, I did it. I did it. It's taken me 8 years, but last night, management and I, for the first time, watched the finale of The Office.
Wow. Yeah. Well, thanks for catching up with the rest of us. By the way, have watched the finale like last year. Anyways.
The boys and I, management and I, very often don't watch the last few episodes of shows we love. Like, we've never seen the last couple episodes of Pushing Daisies. We've never seen the last few episodes of Chuck. Because you know what? That show's still going on. In our world, that show is still going on. And, around the time that season was airing, we just didn't watch that much TV. We had, a 2-year-old, a 5-year-old, and just life was kind of busy. And we loved the show. Plus, I stopped watching the show because that's around the time my anxiety really started to get bad with shows. And I just couldn't. But the oldest guy, he's watched the entire series at least 2 times through, and he's been begging for us to watch the last season. So we have been watching the last season, intermittently. But I think I've missed a few episodes of the last season. But last night we sat down and we watched the last 2 episodes, and it's everything I had hoped for. It was everything I could have hoped for in a series finale.
Yeah, and I think IMDb agrees with you because it rates 9.8 out of 10.
I mean, and it's such a cliche way to end things. I mean, how many series ends on the birth of a child or, over wedding? And to have it be Dwight's wedding, which you knew was going to be batshit crazy, and you just knew it was going to be fucked up. And, Jim being his best man, which they didn't call him the best man. It was some Dwight Schrute form of best man. But here's Jim just killing it, just absolutely killing it, being the best man ever. And just before they leave the little, groom's room, before they...
Should we say spoilers?
Yeah, we should say spoiler. It's 8 years. If no one's seen it.
Hey, if I rambled off the fucking finale last week, you'd be like, hey, what are you doing?
That's true. But backing up just a tad bit from it, it was great. What I really enjoyed is you don't see the documentary, but it turns out, and you never knew, I don't think they had ever said who was shooting the documentary and why. And it turned out that it was a PBS documentary that they were doing, and it was a miniseries. And I can't remember if they said it was 9-episode miniseries on PBS that documented The Office. And so, when Dwight got married, it was a year later. So
each season was a year. Like each year of their series was an episode of the actual documentary series in the series.
And they go back, and I'm going to get choked up again because literally I texted you last night, I think, when I was watching it, and I'm like, it was like when Attila the Hun saw his mother.
Niagara Falls.
So the second to last episode, there's a big panel, and everybody. No. The last episode ends with the regular people from The Office, like Stanley had retired. Some people had left the show. So all the people that left the show who weren't there anymore weren't there. But at the last night, they decide they're going to watch it together at a bar, the first episode, because it's finally going to air. Yep. And then the episode ends. And the last episode takes place a year later. And so it aired a year ago, and PBS had put together in Scranton a panel, and they got everybody to come back. And this is, and it was such a genius way. Hey, how do we get all the people who left the show to come back, to do it? And they were all going to be there on the panel. And that's why they had Dwight's wedding, because everybody was in town, and the panel was great. And it was tough because, all these women, all these middle-aged women at the panel going up, professing their love for Jim. And it's like saying, like villainizing Pam. It's like, if he was my boyfriend or husband, I let him do anything to me. Anything to me. The way he treats you, the way he talks about you, and all these gestures. He bought a house to surprise you, and he gave up his dream company because you wanted to stay in Scranton, and he gave everything up for you. and just villainizing her and all that stuff. But then, and you knew, and this is a big spoiler, you kept waiting for Michael Scott to show up.
Yeah, he wasn't on the panel.
Right. He had to show up. And so flash forward to the end of it, Jim and Dwight are in the little groomsmen room just before, going out to the altar. And that's when Jim's like, oh, I just found out I can't be your, whatever best man is in Shroot talk. And he's like, yeah, because the best man has to be older than the groom. And he goes, I've never heard that. He goes, no, whatever they call the usher, has to be, there. And he's like, he goes, but you're not that much younger. He goes, well, it doesn't matter. It's like, dude, and because Jim killed the bachelor party, just absolutely killed the bachelor party. And Dwight was hesitant, and like he thought he kept thinking he was going to get pranked. And Jim kept doing these greater gestures. He gave Dwight the dream bachelor party. He taking him to a field where there's a military person letting him shoot an RPG. Yeah. Everything that he could have possibly ever wanted. And he's like, I just can't do it. It's like, I don't know what to tell you. It's like, maybe we'll have to find somebody else. Enter Michael Scott.
And then he's at the door and he goes, that's what she said. No, is that when he said that's what she said?
Oh, he's like, oh, you came just in time.
You came just in time. That's what she said. And he was choking up as he said it. He goes, that's what she said. And
the thing is,
I was going to say, and his other line was him talking to the camera outside during the reception, talking about how he feels about the marriage. And Michael Scott says, it's like seeing your children get married to each other, which is every father's dream or something like that.
And it's great because, and then they also, so the episode doesn't end because there's a little more footage that they're getting for the DVD, the behind the scene. They're going to release the show on DVD, and they need a little content to go. And that's how they get everybody to do kind of one more like headshot talking head thing. And oh gosh, I'm choking up even saying this. When Dwight is talking about he's had this dream job and this dream life, and he really loves these people. And it's like, and he's also still Dwight. It's like, well, they're not coworkers. I run the place. They're subordinates. And he's like, but he's going, what? And when he starts talking about Pam, and he's like, she's the best friend I've ever had. And it shows, as much as Dwight through the series was a douchebag and sometimes backstabbed Michael and sometimes was a douche to Pam, there were these windows where there was like 3 or 4 times, 2 or 3 real harsh times where Pam needed a shoulder and it was Dwight. Or something shitty happened to Dwight, and the person there to pick up the pieces was his nemesis, his frenemy. You know what I mean? And it was like, and in these moments, and you're like, he has this realization that, it's like it was there all along. Your best friend was right there.
Right. The friends we make were actually the enemies we made along the way.
and so that's what I've watched. That literally, I don't think I've watched anything else in the last week except a couple episodes of Community, Friends, and just this wormhole of Fred Willard.
Mm-hmm. I on the other hand, I've not rewatched the last episode of The Office, despite me having a proclivity to just watch whatever you tell me to watch or whatever you're watching, if it's not Batman v Superman related. But I did watch the new Patton Oswalt Netflix special, I Love Everything. I don't think you've seen it yet, but it's good. It's good, and it's got
is Fred Willard in it?
No, unfortunately, right. It does have some parallels with your life, so I think you should watch it. You know, there's some Star Wars talk. There's you know, he's 50, he's your age, you know, and he talks about that. He talks about having a fight with his wife, and the funniest resolution to that fight is played out in his routine, and it's good. It's a good watch. It's fucking Patton Oswalt. How could it not be good? You learn a few new words because he's also a smart guy. Like, he'll break out
smart.
Yeah, breaks out these words. It's like, okay, you know how like when I say something like motorcycle, and you're like, oh great, now I have another word I have to look up. That's how I felt watching Patton Oswalt. Oswalt.
No, he's one of my favorite. He's top 5 over the last 20 years of comics, and he's probably top 10 of all time. He's very smart. I mean, I like smart comedy. I like pies in the face. I like dick jokes. I also like real cerebral stuff.
I like big butts, but I can never lie.
You're awesome. Do you have a parenting tip?
Ignore your children.
Oh, I should take your tips. Like, literally, I should heed your warnings. I don't ignore my children. I should. Joe, I don't know if it's ever come up. I hate your artwork. I hate everything about your artwork. I hate the thought of your artwork. I hate my fucking neighbor, who is a really nice guy, who has a gorgeous yard and has politely told me so many times, it's like, oh, don't go and buy that. I have it in the shed. Just go and get whatever shit thing you need. You need a rake. You need this chainsaw on a stick thing to trim these, like, you know, the pine trees that overhang the pool. It's his way of saying, hey, clamp it, clean it up a little bit. I mean, but if his yard wasn't so nice, our yard wouldn't look so awful. So, you know, we decided, we're not going to have my brother-in-law come out this year because he is just too busy doing, he does a yard cleanup first once a year. He brings his whole crew. I hate your artwork. My kids hate your artwork. So my parenting tip is share your misery. It's your yard. It's their yard. You hate it. They hate it. Hate it together, but get the fuck out there and rake some leaves, because it's easier to rake the leaves now than skim them out of the pool later. So shut the fuck up and hate it together, but just get it done.
It's kind of like the Republicans. Republicans are like, you know what? We hate these snowflakes. We need to rake them up and deport them. I don't care if they were even born here. Just get them out of the country. That's your attitude, and that's the attitude we should take toward everything we hate. Yeah, just hate together, and the world will be a cleaner place. What?
So thank you, Joe, for indulging me on this journey, and congratulations on 2 years of doing podcasts. In 2 years, I think we've missed 4 weeks. Like 5 weeks. How many episodes? Do you know what episode this is?
I think it's 150 something or other. I don't know. Yeah,
but that's including sideshows. But either way, I think in 2 years we've only missed like 4 or 5 weeks with all the travel and all the pandemics and all the, scheduling changes and having awful kids and management. Congratulations to you on two fun-filled years of putting up with my shit and meanderings.
And to you as well. We're actually at on episode 142.
Yeah, so we're right there. And I'm very much looking forward to the podcast on Thursday. I'm saying it now, just, half to be funny and half, it might be true. I'm looking forward to part 1 of the Fred Willard sideshow this Thursday. I'm done.
Me 3. The math doesn't add up. With 142, we would have had to have done 71 weeks a year for 2 years. I don't know.
52 weeks a year.
I know it's 52 weeks a year times 2. That's 104. That's 104 episodes. How are we at 142? Is this our 3rd anniversary?
Sideshows.
No, I'm counting just numbers.
Dude, it might be the 3rd anniversary.
Wait, is this our...
Right, because the first year I don't think I went to Phoenix. I went to Phoenix last year. Was the year I went to... Dude, it's our 3rd
anniversary.
Holy shit, are you stupid?
No. I got you. That was a surprise. Ha ha.
Wow.
I had you thinking it was the second year
Holy
anniversary,
shit.
all episode long. I gotcha. That's Joe. At it again. All right, well, happy third anniversary. Whatever the hell. I give up. And yeah, tune in for our Fred Willard retrospective. It's going to be thorough. It's going to be thorough, and it's going to be great. And you better listen, or I will fight you. And don't forget,